Hi, welcome. You've reached this is Elaine. I'm Elaine, and it's the Seer and Higher Self live. So for me, it's 7:30 in the morning, Pacific time. And I also do these YouTube lives on Tuesday at 11:11. And I just wanted to thank you for joining. I was trying to see, it's actually interesting because the 7:30 morning, um, it's like very quiet, but it feels quiet. Just checking that my audio is working. It's very quiet, like the vibration or the feeling is very quiet compared to 11:11, and it's not that many hours difference. And yeah, so I can actually feel the difference between the time zones. Okay, so Senija says, I thank you, Senija, for joining and letting me know. So she's saying I'm echoing a bit. So I just changed something to see, does that help? Yeah. Somebody sent some hearts. I don't know if that's you, Senija. I can never tell from the chat if who's sending the hearts. But I send hearts back. So hopefully that took care of the echo. We'll find out. So yeah, I was just feeling the difference at like even though it's more rushed, the 7:30 a.m. is it is it feels like the transmission is quieter or the frequency or the vibration is quieter. And it's interesting to someone sent hearts. Okay, so someone else sent hearts. So thank you. Thank you, whoever is sending hearts. Um, I'll send some hearts back. Yeah, so if you want to ask any questions or just adjusting my camera frame. It's so interesting, like doing having all the technology. Like today is so quiet. So for weeks, I've had construction workers show up on the balcony, which is right here on my left side. And then the roofing guys, the construction workers are mostly men. Actually, I haven't seen any women. They're all men. Um, Doing the roof, but today is really quiet. Like today there's nothing. It's like it's really still. And so is it still echoing, Senija? Or did it get corrected? I don't know. Well, hopefully it sounds okay. I'm just gonna ask. It's still for me the like there's still a lag, but I wear a microphone now, so when I wore a headset, I could hear the looping. So that's why you'd see, like in the older lives, there'd be these pauses because I was waiting because I had to wait until, so whatever I said, it would loop around and I'd have to listen to it again and then to see kind of where I was at. So I can see that for me, my video is off, but then when the recording is done, like on YouTube Live, there is none of that. So it's interesting. Okay, so let's look at the chat. So thanks, Senija, for being here and everybody else that's here. If you want to pop on the chat and say hi. Slightly lagging, but it's okay. So slightly lagging, but it's okay. Okay, so it's still lagging a bit, so it might just take, actually, let's just claim the YouTube Live and source's name. And let's claim the Wi-Fi and source's name. So I claim the Wi-Fi and source's name. I claim the YouTube Live and source's name. I claim Zoom in source's name. I claim the 3 and 4 and 5G towers in source's name. I claim my laptop in source's name, my Apple laptop in source's name. I claim my microphone in source's name. I claim all the technology in source's name. I claim my power cables in source's name. I claim the camera in source's name and the microphone in source's name. And we'll see if it settles down a bit. All right. So Senija says that she did the family decree this morning after midnight. Wow. Wow, that's amazing. And I when I was doing the videos, like I kind of like think I write it down kind of what I'm gonna say in the decrees and then film it. And I thought, yeah, definitely no more than 3 at a time because if you're a starseed, sensitive empath, super empath, black sheep, those are all light workers, right? So you've come here because you have like a frequency and energy, but you're here to kind of awaken out of, I guess some people call it the matrix, but you're more here to just activate your consciousness and and then just you awakening your consciousness then awakens others. So we can see that with the Dr. Hawkins scale of consciousness, where if you stay at 5D, I think it's like a huge amount. It's like you help 700,000 people below 200, which is very low 3D. So fear, shame, guilt, sadness, but you're very stuck, like low 3D is very painful. Like it's extreme anxiety, it's extreme, pain on so many levels, physical pain, emotional pain. It's just, it's anguish, right? And we've all been there because that's been kind of the norm, um, in this life, that has been the norm. Like we've seen the darkness, not in just even a few years ago. So, so Senija says, so she did the family decree. When I was airing it and signing it, it was 11:59 p.m., April 29th, and turned to midnight, April 30th. Wow. So even like the time, that's like so significant. Yeah, when she was, so Senija saying when she was dating the decree. So the family decree came out yesterday. So the 29th, and Senija saying that she did it at really close to midnight when she was writing it and then signing it. Yeah, I said airing, but yeah, when she was writing it and then signing it, it was 11:59, April 29th, and then it turned to midnight, April 30th. So really today. So she did it in the early morning. Yeah, when she was dating it. So how did it go? How did it feel? Because that's your second decree, because Senija also did the body decree and then had some, and then her body had some responses with the body decree. But a fear came out. And I was thinking about that, like like the low 3D, the the main frequency of low 3D is fear. Like something bad's gonna happen or something bad, yes, something bad is happening and then something bad is going to happen, and that is 3D. It's that fear, and also it can be like panic, it can be anxiety, or you can go the opposite where you kind of just collapse because it's just so overwhelming. So it's kind of what I've really seen with that low 3D. um is more like what is really hard is to get to the place where and you can do this, like, and you've done this, and if you're here and we're having this conversation, you have done this many times where you've gone to that place of zero neutrality, right? Where you don't judge things as good or bad, or they just are, right? And then you can feel, so just doing some releases, so you can just feel that there's that you can just have that spaciousness around the neutrality of it. And that's what the decree is for. It's to kind of give you, it's not going to correct everything. Maybe it will very quickly, or maybe it will very slowly, but it will give you that spaciousness around you so you don't feel like hemmed in. So even in your home, in your space, it's like you're here, it's peaceful, but you can feel like very hemmed in, like very overwhelmed. And the decree is kind of like, naming technology in source's name, naming your space in source's name, and then sealing your space in source's name. It's like it's there to give you some spaciousness so you don't feel so downtrodden or so like attacked. That's like a stronger word. So let's just see. There's some more comments in the chat. So I'm just gonna take a look. So Senija saying, um, so she's saying much easier, still some feelings that I'm doing something bad. Yeah, and that's like very, very, I would say that feeling that you're doing something bad is very typical of the critical voice. So that's the critical voice is the ego or the conscious mind. And that is very typical of the conscious mind, that it will tell you you're bad, you're doing something wrong. Oh, you're going to harm somebody. You're going to harm somebody by clearing out your energy. I mean, it's madness. It's ridiculous. Like, there's nobody going to get harmed by clearing out your energy. The only person that is harmed when you don't clear out your energy is you, right? But the ego, the conscious mind, it says everything in the opposite. Yeah, so I just got 100%. Thank you, whoever sent that. So, the decree clears out your energy field. It doesn't, it doesn't clear out, it doesn't, like, everybody has to do it for themselves. So we can't clear out other people's energy fields. Say, as an energy worker, we can for a session, for an hour, or for 2, or for 3. But then as soon as the person goes home, they have to do it themselves. So, Senija sent the 100%. Okay, thanks, Senija. I'll send you some hearts back. So thank you for letting me know. Okay, let's take a look. So yeah, so they're doing something bad. That is the conscious mind. That is the critical voice. And all you have to do is you don't have to fight it. You don't have to say, oh, that critical voice, and when's it going to go away? It's there. It's like an installation, how I view it. And you just can observe it, but don't give it any energy, because all you're doing in the decree is clearing your cellular body and your emotional body and your etheric body and your mental body. All your bodies are getting cleared by the decree. And so that you can have spaciousness around you, so that you're not constantly haunted by everything in this life and then potentially in other lives. Okay, so let's take a look at the chat again. So thank you, Senija, for all the comments. Let's see. Okay, so Senija said in writing her second decree, so she did the first decree, which was, well, I'm guessing you did all of them, right? You've been doing the technology decree and claiming your space. And I know Senija, you've done everything. You're awesome. But the body decree came out on Saturday, April 25th. So that was part 6. So Senija said she did that, and she did have some responses, and she could feel it in her body. And she talked about that on Tuesday on the live. Um, And then the family decree came out yesterday. So she said that the writing was steadier and she was more present, less confused. Okay, yeah. So you can see with more experience. Oh, okay. So somebody's sending hearts. So thank you. I will send hearts back. Thank you. It's actually, I love hearts. Like it's really nice, receiving the heart. So thank you. And like it's just sending, we have to just help each other, send love. It's really nice, but it feels very like whoa, like hearts, like it's like when somebody hearts something on social medias, it's like whoa, it's like a heart, but really it's such a beautiful sentiment. um okay, so let's just go back to Senija. So Senija says it was much easier. So this is her second decree. So this is the family decree. It was much easier with some feelings of doing something bad, but her writing felt steadier and she was more present, less confused. And then Senija says, can we put our own name on the decree? That's interesting. See? Like, you're so smart, Senija. Like, I have never thought of that. Let's just ask your higher self. Let's just take a minute, actually, because I never actually have ever thought of putting myself in the decree. I've never, um, okay, so what we're doing with the decree is we're clearing energetic entanglements. So we're clearing interference. So the first thing that came through is you don't need to clear interference to yourself. Like we want our own energy and our own consciousness, but we don't want others, like even if you're a parent, like we don't, we want our kids to not be enmeshed with us. We want them to have their own being and their own clear energy field, right? We don't want to be meshing and mixing because it gets very confusing and kids get very overwhelmed when they're enmeshed with their parents. So we want, this is about, the decree is about clearing out your energetic interference or energetic cords or like the yuck and the muck, basically, like everything that does not belong to you, but that has been looping and looping and looping, like you haven't been able to, like all the relationships, you can call them either nightmares or they've been learning relationships, or they've been kind of like like no relationships where the person's been there, but it's like a potato relationship where they sit in a chair and you sit in a chair and nothing happens. It's so sad, right? So lonely. But it's like there's this emptiness to it. So it's kind of like that. We're clearing, but you haven't had that love connection or being able to connect with your divine counterpart. So, because that's actually really, really big for 5D, is to actually finally clear the interference so that you activate the divine counterpart in you, so that you have the divine masculine and the divine feminine activated inside of you. And that is very important. And I can feel it. I can feel like that, pressure on my throat. It's like, don't speak it, because it's actually what has been the most hidden, right? Like we've heard that about twin flames or soulmates, but this is different. This is actually like your divine counterpart, and it is inside of you. So imagine if you're female in a female body, and then if you don't have the divine masculine activated, or if there's overlays over the divine masculine, then it's very hard to be assertive or to move forward or to, the masculine kind of attributes of action. So we need the balance of both, where the divine feminine is the intuitive, the creator, the creative, the like, creator of life and transformation. So we need both, because we need to transform and then also to go into action. And that is what is the most difficult for empaths. they can go into action very quickly for other people, but for themselves, they're like frozen or stuck, right? And I can say that for myself as well. So yeah, okay. So I guess the answer for can we put our own name? I'm gonna just have some water. It's always good if you're expressing something and then you feel like there's something in your throat just to drink some water. Pause. Pausing is so important. So yeah, you don't need to clear energetic cords with yourself. You need to clear other people's energy out of your own core being. And Senija is also asking, can we change the name of our space? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if something else feels more true, then yeah, absolutely, change it and claim it, and claim it in God's name or source's name or divine presence's name, whatever word feels resonant to you. Um, resonates to you. Yeah, resonates to you. And then just looking at the chat again. Yeah, so Sunija's saying, yes, she did all the decrees so far. And she wants to know, can you do the decree again with the same people if we forgot to write down the issues we have with them? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And you can do as many decrees as you want until you feel there's like an energetic shift. But I always say do three because, people will end up with like a journal and you just want like a piece of paper. You just want like a piece of paper and blank if you can with no lines, right? So because you want a blank slate, and fold it 3 times and then burn it. And because it's really great, because what Sunija is saying is that she did the decree, the family decree, and then she realized that the issues that she had with them became more clear after she did the first decree with the family. And yeah, we can do many, many decrees, especially with the family, because once we start clearing, we start seeing more what the root cause is. And then seeing, like for me, I can see the issues that I had in this life. They've been I have been in kind of a stuck cycle of 4 lifetimes with the same 4 people. And or the main people were 4 people, and I've been in the same kind of, it's like a horror show, where you're repeating, and it's like the worst kind of repetition. But that is the trick of 3D, where they trick us to come back with the same people and see if you can work it out and see if you can improve it, see if you can, have more lessons, and, the purpose of it, and the recursion, like that is the light trap. So that is the false light. So that is where many souls or human beings are stuck, and they're stuck in the recursion. And some people, it's like multiple lives, like hundreds, so some people have gotten really stuck in the recursion of looping, and then that's what the decree gets to the heart of, to clear. So um Sydney just says, yeah, so yeah, do as many decrees as you want, but I would say, do 3 people so that you can focus on it, and then just notice, like, if you're like, I find sometimes the paper will really burn like fast, but then there'll be like chunks, like, pieces of it. that didn't burn, which is like, how is that even possible? It's in a pot by itself and two pieces of paper. So I always write down what didn't burn, and then I will do a decree again another time because then I know what is so resistant, like what is so resistant to being cleared in my field, because those pieces of paper that didn't burn will actually say so much. And it's amazing because you have this big piece of paper and you folded it 3 times. And then there's like certain names that don't burn or certain words that don't burn. And you can just pick them up with your tongs, the pieces of paper, and then just take a look at them and then burn them again in the moment. Don't hold on to the pieces of paper, burn them again. And then, but you can always take a note, because those are the people that are the hardest, that they're wanting those energetic ties to you because they are draining you. They're using your energy, basically. But they can't do anything with your energy. So all it does is drain you. So you think, okay, well, I'm helping them. I used to think that for decades. Oh, well, it helps them. It doesn't. They actually can't do anything with your energy. The only thing it does is it drains you. So, all right. So thanks, Senija. Senija says, thank you. Thank you back. Thanks for doing that. And thanks for giving feedback on the process. And then Senija says, my first decree was a bunch of different people, family, friends, teachers, etc. Yeah, great. So because it's your body, right? So it would have been like the body decree, it would have been different things that happened. Um, but even with family, it can be like, we can have like extended family, not just our immediate family. And then some people have kind of multiple families. Like I had one client where she had, six lineages, because her parents, she she had her birth parents, and then she got adopted, and then the adopted parents broke up, and then she had step parents, and there was like six, so she had a lot to clear. Very strong. Oh, just lots can happen in a lifetime, right? So, and then usually who has been the most difficult, and I would say go for that person, because some people are like, extras, but there's like the main character, and the main character has been like the most horrific. And then there's been, the background characters have been there kind of in a passive aggressive way. So, but follow your intuition. I think Cindy just said she followed her intuition of what people to write down, and that's great. Yeah, you want to follow your intuition, and then just see how your body feels. Like I did one decree for myself recently, and I had that happen where two pieces of the paper didn't burn. So then I wrote it down, and then I did one yesterday, and it burned, and then all the paper went completely to ash. Like there was, like, it's just completely like fluffy gray ash. Like it just, because I really zoned in, because I noticed, okay, well, what are the leaks? Where's the energy going? What's happening with my energy? And then I did it again, and it just burned like to nothing. So I felt really good. So yeah, and then you're gonna see some decrees, you feel tired, or different parts of your body can ache. Like one time my right knee was like throbbing. It hurt so much, but nothing happened to it. I'm in my own space, and I didn't injure my knee in this moment, but I had like this throbbing pain. So just notice that. Um, and then follow the self-care. Like it's like I never really knew how important um just even showering or just having a bath, to just release the, like, kind of let the water kind of purify you, kind of like the putting the salt on the ashes and then putting them in the toilet. um Like now I've seen so much happen with the ashes not wanting to get flushed down the toilet that I'm so thorough, like even after I put the ashes in the toilet, I put water in the pot, and then I put that water in the toilet, and then I do it 3 times. So I kind of do everything 3 times because I just think that's, the law of three is good. Okay, so let's take a look at the chat again. So excellent questions. Thanks, Senija, for all this feedback. This is really good. Um, so that's why I was so exhausted physically and mentally that day. Yeah, so that was the first time you did the decree. So, and it's interesting, like I just right away, I was like, oh, because it also shows how much you're bombarded, like how much has been on you or around you, or, like energetically been siphoning your energy, right? So, because you're saying you're basically kicking everybody out, that isn't for your highest and greatest good. But even if they are for your highest and greatest good, they would never kind of intrude that way. It's such an intrusion to interfere with somebody energetically. So, yeah, it's a really interesting process of who, and it's interesting for me, the name that doesn't burn, like it's happened 3 times with the same name. Like they're that stubborn, right? And so it's just like, yeah, but I'm in charge. I'm going to keep clearing and keep clearing until it's clear, right? Because you want your energy. So, because you want to feel calm when you're alone and you're with your own energy. You want to feel really good. You want to feel good in your body. You want to feel good with your energy and your space. Um, yeah, so what Sunny just said, so that's why I felt so exhausted physically and mentally that day. Yeah, and it can be very surprising, but these energy cords have been there for a long time that have been interfering. So it's almost like sometimes you can go through like a detox. It feels like a detox. Yeah, good questions. Okay, so let's see. Cindy just got another message. My first degree burned nicely. Only a tiny piece didn't burn, and it was blank. And this last decree burned all. Okay, that's really good. And then even if you have like a tiny piece of paper, did you burn it again? So try to burn everything so that it's just ash. Like like you can pick it up with the tongs again and then just light it and then turn it into ash. And then one time when I burnt one of my decrees, I forgot to put sea salt on it. And then I was like, oh, that's interesting. Like I forgot, because the sea salt is like it seals it. So I got 100% here. Yeah. So I was like, okay, so I just took note of it. I was like, because we're not here to be perfect, right? So I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then that was the one that the 2 pieces of paper didn't burn. And it was actually at first it's burned, and I thought, oh, it's gonna all burn. And then there was just like they were that about that big, which is really strange. 2 pieces that were separate about that big each. And then I forgot to put salt on it so I could see that whatever I was clearing and what I named in the decree, I kind of hit the nail on the head, because the energetic severance that I was claiming in those decrees, obviously there was 2 people that didn't burn, their names didn't burn. They obviously didn't want me to do that decree, but then I just did it when I had energy again, like a couple days later, then I did it again, and then I did it in more detail. So it was actually even more empowering. And then it burnt like easily down to ash. So yeah, that's great. So that's really good because the burning also shows kind of like what the energy is around the decree, like the people that you've named and the situations that you've named. And Senija said that she did burn the little piece of paper that didn't burn in the first degree. Okay, good, good. And did it feel like, did it feel like when you watched the videos, did it, how was the pace? Like, were you able, did you pause it as you were writing? Like, how did that feel? Like, how did the pace feel? Like, did you feel like it was understandable or did you need more? I'm just curious because I guess the big thing is just pause the video as you need it so that the information that you need comes through. Um, and you don't feel like you don't have to rush the writing of it, and then just notice how your body feels. Like, does it feel tired? Does it feel overwhelmed? Does your throat feel tight? Are there certain words or voice, like the critical voice can come through? Oh, like, what's the point? What's the point of this? It's so ridiculous. You're writing something down and then you burn it, and it's just so hokey, like, to me, that's how the conscious mind talks, because your higher self would be like, wow, like the higher self is so curious. The higher self would be like, wow, this is so interesting. Yeah, let's try it. Well, and also you're getting that idea from your higher self. So I'm just taking a pause because I find I talk so fast sometimes and have some water. It's so interesting. Like today's, I don't know, I want to keeps saying for me to call it a transmission, but this transmission today feels so quiet. Like there is like this stillness and this spaciousness around. It's like, it's really interesting. Like, I don't know. It's kind of like a magical kind of feeling. It's surprising, actually. Yeah. And Senija, I wanted to say, like, it really stood out for me when on Tuesday, when you said, that it really brought up a lot of fear, like doing the decree and feeling like you're doing something bad or, you're causing harm. That is the hook of the light worker, right? To, to not remove things from our energetic field that are, and these things are holding us back, and also hooking into people that are not for our highest and greatest good. And it's fine. Like, to me, whoever is around, great, be around, right? But they are not allowed to be in my inner. But I don't have a problem with anybody. They can all be around, like some people would be always like, oh, I wish that person would die. And I'd be like, what? Like, don't say that. Like, you have no idea what you're bringing to yourself. So, you don't have, like, people can just go about their lives. But if you're clear energetically, you're not going to get, that it's like an old-fashioned kind of game, but where you like pull back and then it has this metal ball and it pings, through the game, goes ping, 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 ping. That's kind of how I feel like empath sensitive light workers kind of feel in 3D. They just get like pinged around, and tossed around, and then they get so like overwhelmed. The decree is basically like, everybody out of my space. You're all fine. You all just do whatever you want to do, but everyone get out of my space. And which is amazing for an empath or a sensitive or light worker to do, because we feel so responsible for other people, but it's like you're not, like everyone has to choose consciousness themselves. And then everyone has to clear their own field themselves. So, and that's the trick. What I find the white light trap, the trick is, oh, but you're gonna come here to help. It's like, yeah, you're gonna come here to help raise consciousness, which means first yourself. You're raising your consciousness first yourself and clearing your own field, and then you actually help thousands. Oh, and Sneeja's saying, okay, so it looks like the internet cut off for a bit, for a second, but I'm back again normally. Yeah, so I'll look at it and I'm always curious what I was saying when I was cut off. And it was interesting when I filmed the family decree, when I looked at the video, because it pretty much, I don't edit it, so I film it and it's pretty good, like the way it is. But there was a point where I said something and it like cut it and then put it like Zoom did it all by itself. Like I didn't do it. And I thought, oh, that's so interesting. So I always look at, okay, what was I saying in the moment where when it cut off or when something, went wobbly. Okay, so let's look at the chat again. So thank you. And thanks, Senija, for all of this information. It's awesome. And this feedback. The first decree took me hours. And took the first decree, so that would have been the body decree, took me hours and hours to write it down. I didn't understand what I was writing. New term. Okay, yeah. Also, I was so in a state of confusion, hard to focus. Yeah, because actually the body decree is so powerful, and that's why I did it first, because our bodies hold so much. And as empaths, a lot of it is not even ours. We can feel so empathic for other people and we take on other people's energy. And then if you had a narcissistic parent or the dark triad, the psychopath, sociopath, narcissist, and one of the parents, they taught you to basically, they used you as a dumping ground, so you can have a lot of their stuff that isn't even yours. Just because of they dumped so much and you were little and you wouldn't have known what was happening, except it didn't feel good. Whatever was being dumped on you just didn't feel good. And everybody says, oh, well, my mom, my dad, they, wouldn't do that. It's like, well, if they're a narcissist, they absolutely did do that, because that is all narcissists do. They don't have their own energy and they need to feed off other people, and they dump whatever they don't like about themselves on other people. So they are like empty inside. They're vacant. And so all of them do that. It's not one, or it's not that bad. It's no, they all do that because they do not have their own consciousness from source. So, okay. So Cindy just said the internet cut off again and then was back again. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see where it was. It's usually when I talk about the dark triad. That it's like, because they're like, they want to convince us that it's like only this person, or it's like this weird guy in the basement that's like a psychopath. It's like, yeah, as if 3D is mostly psychopaths, sociopaths, and narcissists. Like that's basically 3D. That's the archons are, and then the modern word for the archons, that's in the Gnostic teaching. And then the modern word for archons is the reptilians and the Draco reptilians. And that's mostly who controls 3D Earth. So, but all of these terms, like, I didn't know them. I learned them after I awakened. So we don't need it. Like you don't need all the galactic, this is happening, with the Pleiadians, and then the Andromedans say this and the Arcturians say this, and we don't need that. Like we don't need the galactic information for awakening. You need your body and your consciousness and your energetic field for awakening. It's like what is inside of me, what is going on, what is happening, and then how to clear what is not yours. And then that is the awakening. But if we are constantly distracted by, oh, who's a reptilian, who's not, or who's, you know, like we get into name calling and then it's like us, them, where you can just ignore, you can get to a point where you just ignore narcissists or the dark triad or the reptilians and you don't go anywhere near them. You're not judging. You're just like, okay, that's who they seem they are. That is the way they seem. And I'm not interested in that. And then you just get away from them and don't feel bad about it because you have to protect yourself because they're there, you know, they're not, they're not there for good reasons. They need your energy. So they need you hooked into unhealthy dynamics. So it's more just noticing, but noticing for your own care, like for your own self-care. But if other people are, say to me, if I say, okay, well, no, I don't want to be around that person, they're like, oh, but they're so nice and they have so much charisma. And, it's like, yeah, well, reptilians have a lot of charisma. They're most of the leaders, they care a lot about being the smartest in the room or the best looking in the room or the wealthiest in the room, so they put a lot into their charisma, right? There are spiritual teachers that have a lot of charisma. They put a lot in charisma. They need your energy. It's like, I don't need anybody's energy, right? I have my own energy. And that's where, light workers and empaths, when they get to, I have my own energy, I'm in charge of my own energy, that is stabilizing 5D consciousness. Okay, so Senija said when the internet cut off, I was talking about Tuesday. Yeah, so talking about the fear, right? So the fear that when you're doing the decree, oh, like I'm doing something wrong or I'm causing harm or I feel afraid of the archons or I feel afraid of the reptilians. Like, I'm not afraid. Like you get to a point where they're like characters in a bad movie, they're like a joke. And even having known them in my own life and have had relationships is like in the moment it was so scary, but now looking back, it was like a joke, it was like a bad movie. And I think that's the biggest thing is they don't want to seem like a joke because they want to seem like they're so powerful, right? They're so, the top dogs are so powerful. And, you know, on an energy level, like they're a joke. So think of it that way. Even on your worst day as an empath, you have way more light and energy than they will ever be able to get, probably in this lifetime. Right? It's not a judgment. Consciousness and light is earned. It's earned through behavior, through consistency, through asking questions, and then doing like the energy work. So if you're lying, cheating, and stealing, and that's been your whole focus of your entire life, well, then you're not going to have much light and you're not going to have much energy. Okay, so let's go back to the chat. Okay, so thanks, Senija. So when we write certain people on the decree and forget to add the issues with them, does our higher self know and clear those issues as well? Yeah, that's a really, really excellent question, Senija. So I'm going to read it again. So when we write certain people on the decree and forget to add the issues with them, does our higher self know and clear? Does our higher self know and clears those issues as well? Yeah, that is the thing with 3D Earth is our higher self does know everything, but we have to ask, right? Because it's a cosmic law on earth that our higher self cannot go against our own free will choice. So we actually do need to write down. Your higher self does know everything that has happened to you. It knows everything that has happened to you, to your soul in all time spaces. But your higher self needs to know, but do you know? Are you conscious of it? And then when you're conscious of it, do you want to clear it? Or do you want to clear them? And then you basically need to give permission to your higher self. So I would say do another decree. If you feel like the issues weren't clear on that decree, then you can do like another decree. Because actually, every time you do a decree, it clears on a, we're clearing our cells. I'm going to drink some water. Yeah, and our higher selves needs to know, and our guides of unconditional love, they need to know what we want to clear, what we're aware of, and then they need us to say, yes, clear it. Yes, remove them. And then if you change your mind, then just say, oh, well, I changed my mind. And then your higher self's okay. Well, we can go back to you taking it back, and then we can, I'll just wait. The higher self is really patient. It's like, I'll just wait until you say yes again, right? Because it's all free will choice. Because what happens on 3D is our consent, they rely on inferred consent. Like, think about how many terms and conditions for updates with Apple you sign, and do you read them? Right? Like, we're constantly consenting to stuff that we don't know what we're consenting to. And then in 3D, they're like, well, we're going to put it in a movie. And then that's everybody watches the movie. And then they're saying, yeah, I give my consent. Like, if all of this happens that happens in the movie, yep, I'm okay with it. That's not consent. That's inferred consent. So I always write that on the decree as well. Like, I don't give my consent and I don't give my inferred consent. So unless I absolutely know what I'm signing, I absolutely know what contract, it's like, that's not consent. So that's exactly been the dodginess of 3D and 4D. It's not just 3D, it's 4D too. So consent with our higher self and our guides of unconditional love, they take that very seriously. They need you to absolutely give your consent, and then they can intervene and step in. So, good questions. Thanks, Senija. Okay. And then Senija says, because I feel that I might not express myself all the way, but my feelings of past traumas were there. Yeah, that's why you can put like the umbrella of like, like you can name like it, say you were named, there was a lot of name calling. You can just write like, that's emotional abuse. So I got some hearts, so I'll send some hearts back. So, you can just put emotional abuse, or you can just write name calling. Whatever has been like, when you have that kind of, oh, I can't look at that. Like, that's too raw. It's too painful. It's like, that would be a good thing to write down in the decree, because you don't want to, you want to be able to kind of like look at things without a charge. Like, I can look at things that happened that were really horrific, but I can look at them now, and in my body, it's like neutral. Like, and if I do have a response, I'll do a decree, because I know there's a charge in there and I want it cleared. I want it cleared out of my cells. I don't want that recursion looping in my body. So you can get to a place where things are that have been horrific that you can be neutral. And then if not, then just do the decree and then see if it helps clear to neutral. Neutral is really powerful, actually. It's not denial. You're seeing things as they are, but you're not hooked in them as though they're happening in the present, right? Because it takes you out of the present moment, those hooks. And so if you can be neutral, it means that you can see them, but you're not hooked, and it won't hook you back into another time space. Yeah, I'm just looking at the question again because I feel that I might not express myself all the way, but my feelings of the past traumas were there. Yeah, and you can just, because really it's like, if there's been physical abuse, there was multiple, they usually don't physically abuse you once, it's usually more than once. Um, but say somebody does physically abuse you once, then they're kind of even horrified by themselves. And then usually like they don't do it and they'll apologize, right? But somebody that is kind of nefarious and wanting to bring you down, they will do that for decades. Like I know I kept waiting thinking, oh, they're just stressed, or they just needed more love, or they just needed more time, or they're just overwhelmed. It's like, no, they're not. Because I always bring that example with money. Like if it's the boss and if they need that person with money, they're not hitting that person. They're not emotionally abusing that person. They're not calling that person names. So if the person has power and that they need, they're not going to harm that person. They're going to find like another target, right? So yeah, just lots of releases for the body. Wow, time just flies. Time just flies in these YouTube lives. I can't believe it. Okay, so thank you, Senija. I hope all of that is helpful. They're really good questions. And then Helen's here. Helen, she says, hi, ladies. I'm listening, but at work. Thanks again, Elaine. I appreciate you too. Oh, thanks, Helen. Bad movie. I have to remember that one when I get overwhelmed. Yeah, yes, it is. But, and the thing is, everybody, it's like why criminals get caught is because they brag. They brag about what they did, you know? And people that have caused harm, they brag because they think they're so smart. They need everybody to know how smart they are. Even if they're, say, smart in like a bad way, in an abusive way, they still brag. Like I still know people that brag. And I'm like, about bad things they did. And it's like, yeah, their ego needs everyone to say, oh, wow, you're smarter than that person. You abuse them. You're so smart. It's like in the worst, in the negative, and yet the ego still needs recognition for how bad they are, you know? And then, they're kind of clueless because they think they're talking about things, bad things that they did, but they're bragging. And so they have no idea. They don't have emotional intelligence. So they have no idea how bad they look because they care so much about what they want to brag about, even if it is very negative. So, yeah, that's why I call them the little stinkers. And that's when you really go, wow, it is a bad movie. I don't know. I worked in film for 20 years, and it's like the movies after 2000 just got worse, as soon as we went into digital instead of actually using film. Because in film it cost more, so you had to be more careful, what you filmed. But now that it's digital, like just you can just whatever film garbage. But the movies, are written by them because they also need to brag, and they also need us to consent, you know? And that's why with the decree, you're revoking consent. You're revoking. Like if it isn't for your highest and greatest good, you're revoking even inferred consent. Senija says, thank you so much, Elaine. Angel, 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 heart, 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 heart. Thanks, Senija. So I guess we should close. It's been an hour. And just, kind of think of the decree as like it obscures your light, it obscures your consciousness. And so you're just removing the veils or or anything that is obscuring your light, like you're clearing it off your field. And it doesn't harm anybody to clear your field. It's like it doesn't harm anybody when you have a shower. It benefits everybody. You smell so good when you have a shower. I have the nicest smelling soaps and shampoo. It's like, you help everybody by, having a shower. So think of it that way. When you're clearing your energy, you're helping kind of everybody. And, 3D is mostly ignorance in spades, right? So as soon as you're aware of that, aware of the ignorance, and then you go on to the next stage, right? Where you look at your desires and you think, oh, like, what? I used to like that person. They're not even a good person, So then you start not feeling bad that you don't like people that aren't good people, You just start, you don't, like, I'm not judging, but I don't want to be around anybody that isn't good-hearted, because usually the empaths don't flock together. It's like one empath and then a whole bunch of others, So, but now the empaths are like tired of that. But the dominant in the last 2000 years has been kind of the dark triad. So to say the narcissists, the archons, the reptilians, they've been the dominant, and then now it's getting flipped. So it flipped in 2025, started in 2024, but it flipped by December 2025, it flipped. And now it's the empaths. And then, because they're heart-based. So then now it's like the heart-based. It's like Lemuria. Lemuria was so heart-based. And then Atlantis was all so tech, and then doing, weird experiments and combinations that it got shut down. And then Lemuria was so open and so heart-based that it got invaded. So it's kind of like having that balance. 5D is having that steady balance and having steady energy, like your energy remaining steady, removing the guilt, removing the fear, removing the isolation, removing the doubt, right? It's like somebody says to you, well, I think, what you're doing is whatever. And you just go, yeah, okay. Yeah, I hear you. But you don't budge. You're just like, yeah, well, I'm going to check with my inner body, my compass, and I'm going to check with my intuition. I'm going to check with my heart, and then I'll see what's true. Right. And then you don't budge. You kind of are like, yeah, like before, that doubt would have gotten you, 10 years off into somewhere away from yourself. But now you're like, okay, well, I'm going to check in. How's my body doing? How does my body feel when I'm around people? And then you'll shift out of the despair, like the 3D is despair. It's like such a horror show. There's so much despair in 3D. And then you start going, okay, well, I'm going to tune in to the love in my heart. I'm going to tune into my own consciousness, my own inner body. I'm going to connect to source consciousness. And then they melt, like the archons melt, the reptilians melt. They all melt. It's like they're empty, right? So, and then you really see the emptiness, see the emptiness in their eyes, and you see the emptiness they don't emit energy. They're like a parasite. And then you're like, ew, like, oh, I like that person. It's like, ew. Because now you see, now you feel, now you can feel it in your body, and you're not kind of doubting yourself. And that is the beautiful thing of 5D is you no longer doubt yourself. You are in your own frequency. But your frequency is connected to many, right? So you're not alone. So basically, when you amplify 5D is the heart, and you amplify the heart, then the shadows and the mysteries, kind of the secret kind of drainers are exposed, and then they have no hook on you. So once kind of everything is kind of brought to light consciousness, then there's no hook. Like I always think, like, with the light of source consciousness, it's like they melt almost, they need to be in the shadows and in the dark to survive. And then the more, consciousness, and then the decree just removes everything that isn't yours. So it's like you're not causing any harm. All you're doing is like good housekeeping, good hygiene, good energy hygiene. And we're just naming things and then clearing them, and that's it. Right? So it's simple. All right. So I think let's end here. Thank you for being here. And we'll see you on Tuesday and ask any questions. There's a couple decrees, more decrees coming up. There's healing your inner child. So inner child healing decree that is coming out on Sunday. So I think that's May 2nd. I'm not sure of the date. Actually, I can't think let me just see if I can, now that I've said it out loud. Sunday is the 3rd. Oh, the 3rd of May. Wow. Okay, we're already in May. April just flew by. Wow. Okay, so the Inner Child Healing Decree, part 9, is going to be out on Sunday. And then part 10 is going to be the Financial Severance Decree. And that, I'm not sure when, I haven't filmed it yet. I wrote it yesterday, but I haven't filmed it. But it's coming. So that would be part 10. So we're kind of, I'm hitting like the main areas. Yeah, Cindy just said the 3rd is Sunday. Yeah, so thank you. So May 3rd, Sunday. So that's going to be the Inner Child Healing Decree is coming out. And then the Financial Severance Decree after that. So thanks for being here. We'll end here. And thanks for being here. I'm going to send some hearts. I think I got some hearts or some celebration. I can't remember. I didn't see it on the corner of my eye, but I'll send some hearts back. Thank you for being here. And yeah, we'll see you in the next one. So on Tuesday, and then there's some more decrees rolling out. Okay, thanks. Take care of you, and always use your own discernment, whatever is for your highest and greatest good.